Kicking off Get to Know Your Draft Pick Week, we start with one of my favorites and a school that now is one of Monty Ossenfort's favorites.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. The comments, the conversations have been great. Let's keep the momentum going as we get into the quote-unquote dark time of the NFL, of which there is none. So let's keep that moving. As I mentioned over the last couple of weeks, I wanted to kind of take a break from the draft, talk more big picture stuff, and then dive into the draft picks themselves, because I feel like it can really muddy the water. You know, like when you have like 8 different crayons when you were a kid and you drew them all over each other and just turned brown. That's what I think it would have been. And you're not really able to see the different colors, the different skill sets, the different players that the Cardinals drafted. So we're starting this week. We are all adults in this world, so I was trying to go chronological order. Ain't no way that was going to happen. So I took what I got this week, and I'm happy that I get to start off with my boy Jay Stevens from Locked On Buckeyes. Death, taxes, Christmas, Easter, and you and I doing a podcast after the draft since Monty Ossenfort took over. Thanks for joining me, dude. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. I enjoyed this, called a tradition unlike any other. It's what I like to say anytime you and I get together after the draft. It's fun being able to have numerous Buckeyes on one team, especially out there in Phoenix. I'm excited for the show and excited to see what numerous Buckeyes do this year out there for the Cardinals.
Hell yeah. So Cody Simon, 4th-round pick, Denzel Burke, 5th-round pick, both have a line to make immediate impact in 2025, especially Cody Simon, where the Cardinals have a big need for a Mike linebacker in the middle of the field, especially a young dude who won defensive MVP in the national championship game this past season. We'll talk about both those guys, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what they'll translate into in the NFL, looking obviously the way too early projection. But Ohio State has become, the Cardinals have become Ohio State West, Paris Johnson Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., and then the two guys this year. Monty Ossenfort has had a massive shift from Steve Keim, where Steve Keim would draft, small schools. He's the smart guy. And then now it's like, oh, you know what? Let's just take good players from the best schools, and the latter seem to work out better. Ohio State has kind of been knocked for, as of late, not being able to win the big one. And then, they ended up winning it, and things seem to be different. Ryan Day is either on the hot seat or he's the best coach in football. It seems week to week it's different. Talk to me about the shift and the production of NFL talent, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, that Ohio State has really been able to hone in on.
Well, you forgot Baron Browning, who I believe the Cardinals just traded for, who is also from Ohio State. And I say that totally butchering your question you just asked me. Forgive me. Can you ask that again?
Yeah. So, over the last 4 or 5 years, it went from wide receiver with Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith-Njigba and Marv, and then now Denzel Ward, a bunch of defensive players come out. Quarterback is still kind of TBD, even though CJ Stroud had a good year. What has the shift in Columbus, what has it been that's kind of allowed to produce these ready-to-rip NFL players, irrespective of position? It seems like it's become a lot better as of late.
Ryan Day has found a great way to raise a level of play after Urban Meyer retired. When you're following a college football legend, you almost expect that guy who's after them to kind of fall a couple years, or to kind of have in college football 3 or 4 lost regular seasons, where if that happens at Ohio State, you might not have a job the next year. Well, Ryan Day came in, undefeated his first year as a head coach, has never had at least in a full regular season, a season where he has lost less than 10 regular season games. Taking the COVID year out of it, he's a 10-win regular season coach just walking through the door. But then he's found a way to keep the standard high, develop great young men, not just great football players, develop great young men. And so when you get to the NFL, you're not only getting a guy that's developed to be elite at something at the next level, you're also getting a great human being. So you're not having to worry about the off-the-field nonsense. There have been a bad apple here or there. You can't get everybody that might be a cancer to get out of the program. But Ryan Day has figured a lot of things right, and he knows how to push the right buttons, how to annoy you until you play your absolute best at the right time. And you're getting it right now with Cody Simon and Denzel Burke, a couple guys. Burke, a 4-year Buckeye, Simon, a 5-year Buckeye. But they're great ambassadors for Ohio State who played a lot of great football in college, but also have the opportunity, and I do believe they're going to take that next step into the NFL to be elite football players.
Yeah, and I agree. After the draft, I watched some film. Like I did the lazy stuff on YouTube because I'm not a draft, I'm not a Dame Parsons or something like that who dedicates their life to this. But after the draft, yeah, you'll dive into it, and I'm fascinated to see the skill sets of how they're both translated to the NFL, especially in the scheme and the scheme fit that Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis have in place, which above all else is where the Cardinals draft defensive play. Like that's the foundation. Talent, of course, but also is it a scheme fit? Is he a corner that's going to be able to tackle in the run game? Is he going to be able to get after? Is a linebacker going to be able to be violent when rushing these guys check all the boxes. So I'm excited to talk about both of them. There's one other name, one other addition to the Arizona Cardinals organization since the end of last season, and that's Justin Frye, offensive line coach from Ohio State. So I actually wasn't every day, as you know this, I have like a rough plan of what I'm going to talk about, and then I go haywire with the guests with one question I wasn't expecting to ask. But it's important to me in this respect. I wanted the Cardinals to go offensive line at 16. I said it all offseason. Unless Will Johnson falls to 16, I want the Cardinals to go on O-line, and then somehow the Cardinals get Will Johnson at 47. But the offensive line, if you don't protect Kyler Murray, none of this is going to work. Okay, and they lost their standard offensive line coach to the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. Justin Frye comes in. You thought the obvious fit would be Josh Simmons to play bookend alongside Paris Johnson Jr. They went with interior defensive lineman instead. Is Justin Frye a guy who you don't worry about elevating an offensive line at the NFL level at his first year, or do you think this is a gamble that the Cardinals are taking?
I don't think it's a gamble at all. I think his track record, not just at Ohio State, but previously at UCLA, you got a guy that knows how to get the best of players. But if you just look at Ohio State's his most recent year at Ohio State, you have Josh Simmons goes down, who was the first-round pick for the Chiefs. The backup left tackle goes down, so Donovan Jackson has to bump out to left tackle, who was also a first-round pick. And then your Remington Award winner, Seth McLaughlin, goes down, who unfortunately went undrafted and still – is very puzzling to me. I know the injury is very, very severe, so that maybe that was why. But you lose two starters and then a backup left tackle. You put a guy at left tackle who had never played left tackle before in his life, and after that game where he had to go up against Abdul Carter, he was great. Like it would look like he was a well-oiled machine out there. Then you have to do the unthinkable where your left guard against Penn State goes back to his original position as center. You're rotating at guard in the college football playoff, doing things you don't think about. And it's all under Justin Frye's watch. His leadership, his development, and getting guys that were questionable depth pieces at the beginning of the year to be starters at the end of the season en route to winning a national championship. Justin Frye, and I was one guy that was like, hey, he's not getting it done in the recruiting. Then I had to sit back and think, well, if he's not getting it done in the recruiting, is he getting it done by developing players? And he was. We were so recruiting focused. If you can't recruit while you're at Ohio State, he can recruit. And the offensive line is a developmental position, which is why it took some of those guys 2 or maybe 3 years to put it all together. But when they did, it was under Justin Frye's leadership, and the rest is history. I do think the Cardinals' offensive line can take steps in the right direction under year one under Justin Frye this year.
Jeez. At JStevens07. It's like on Twitter, it's weird when things start to go correctly and rationally. This is, draft 3 in this new regime, and I'm still kind of flicking my own forehead wait, find something bad to talk about. You're so I call it Stockholm Syndrome to losing. What fan base in Phoenix, they're always looking for holes in a good thing just to go back to what they're comfortable with, which is just perpetual dysfunction and irrelevancy and losing. And this is definitely a stark contrast from that, especially over the last 1,000 days or so. Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, joining me. We're just getting started here. Cody Simon and Denzel Burke under a microscope. Next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at Upwork. So from years ago, I still have a profile on Upwork. When I was doing podcast stuff, when I was doing some engineering, some editing, some spot voice stuff when I was still in radio, I know how great Upwork is. And if you're a business and scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time, like anyone would, Check out Upwork. You can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with the top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, joining me here. This is the beginning of the week. We're going to hit all of the draft picks in the first 5 rounds, and then I'm going to bring in one of the better minds from the Draft Network. One of the better minds breaking down draft picks who happens to be at the Draft Network. I'm not saying that there's bad minds at the Draft Network. Get off my ass. It's going to be a good week. It's going to be a good week. Jay, Cody Simon is going to wear number 50. I'm a big numbers guy. Ohio State just says, screw whatever you guys think numbers should be for players. We're going to do whatever we want, which is what it's been pretty much forever. The NFL is like taking that mold now. Numbers, it pisses me off that Josh Sweat's wearing 10. It's like that's a wide receiver number or, not an edge rusher number. But I think Cody Simon, if he's going to come in and eventually be the starting Mike for the Cardinals, I think 50 works. I think that's like the dictionary definition of what a Mike linebacker number should be. Am I crazy for caring too much about these numbers?
No, because that's what we do as sports fans and talking heads and do this every day. We care about the stuff that people think we're crazy for. Well, we might be crazy for it, but that's what makes us unique. I'm a numbers person. I do buy into, especially being a college guy, numbers are very interesting. Why would I want let's say a quarterback rolled out with number 0? Why? Like, why would you do that? That's not your number. Give him number 12, number 14. If you're fast lefty, take number 7. But I think numbers are very important. Speaking of Mike linebacker numbers, 50, give me 52, give me 55, give me something like that. Like, I get it. If you want to go to a 90s, like 92 is cool. Don't give me 99 for a middle linebacker. That's for your D tackle. That's the nose guard who's 350, 6'4", maybe 6'1", 350, whatever it is. But, like, don't get that kind of number if you're a Mike linebacker. I would come on the show and be like, you're crazy. Like, why would you do that? Pick a number that fits you as a player. So, no, like, I didn't expect this to come out when you mentioned the numbers part, but maybe I'm crazy like you are. I don't know.
No. The segment I did like 2 minutes on it because it's like math is red, Thursday's purple, Cody Simon is 50. Like those things where the numbers associate with things that don't have anything to do with numbers. Anyways, here we go. So Cody Simon, just for people unaware of his work, 112 tackles in 2024, 12 and a half tackles for loss, 7 sacks, was the defensive MVP of the national championship game. Not a bad resume for a dude who's playing with, again, with an all-world offense and an all-world defense. Is he going to translate to the NFL level right away, or is this going to be more of a project for Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon for the first year or so?
No, I think he'll translate right away, quicker than Denzel Burke will. We'll get to him later on in the show. Yeah. But I think Cody Simon and the way that he came on very, very strong last year, I think he made himself to be – I'm going to say this now. People that are fans of other schools may be like, no, you're just saying this because he's an Ohio State guy. No. If he was at a different school out there that ran more of a traditional 4-3, he probably would be a day 2 pick. He was at Ohio State, who ran a 4-2-5, who also had, 8 guys get drafted on defense. So you're around all this elite talent. Your production is not viewed the same way as it is as a guy that is the guy on a defense. Yeah, he may have a guy in the secondary or a guy on the D-line that might get drafted, but they're working around him. We're at Ohio State. You got Caleb Downs behind you. You got Lathan Ransom behind you. You got Jack Sawyer and Troy Malaw in front of you. You got so many dudes out there that your production, while it is 100-plus tackles, it's not viewed the same way as a guy that's on a team that's just trash because he has to do everything. And so I think Cody Simon's production this year is going to be one that, let's say game 4, game 5, or game 6, you're on the show talking about how good he is, how the things he saw that he did at Ohio State quickly translated, and he might even be better because he doesn't have to take classes anymore. He's literally a pro. While there is some professional attributes to college football, these kids still got to take classes. Ryan Day talked about in the playoff that classes started the week Ohio State played Texas. So now you're having kids having to go, not be in class, having to go to a different state to play at a time you're not used to, advisors having to go with the team so players are staying up with their classwork. You're not doing that anymore. You're just playing ball. And I think Cody Simon's a guy, a student of the game that's gotten better every single year. He is going to relish in the opportunity to simply just play ball and not have to take classes anymore.
Yeah, it's fascinating because Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis they're wizards with the defense. So, I mean, they've got a couple different, like a 4-3 base. They run 3-4 a lot. Like, they're being comfortable with being uncomfortable is what players need to be in this defense. And it doesn't matter what it's going to look like. Even during his introductory press conference, Jonathan Gannon said, I mean, yeah, we have a base, but we really just scheme, alongside what the opposing offense looks like. And it's held true. I think you're right with Cody Simon. Like, I don't care that he's 23. Like, I'd much rather take a guy who's played 4 years or 5 years or whatever it is with injury and stuff every time because he's ready to rip. Plus, you're going to get him in the fourth round. Plus, he's going to be half as expensive contract-wise as somebody who's a blue chipper who he's played, 25 games? You have no idea what it's going to be like. So I agree with that. And I think he's in a great situation and also a precarious one at the same time. Let me explain what I mean, and I want your thoughts. So they obviously bolstered the defensive line front with Devin Thomason, Calais Campbell, brought in Josh Sweat, extended Baron Browning, and drafted Julian Burke. Like, they've got dudes now, and obviously Walter Nolan. His job is going to be easier. This is like the Georgia front a couple years ago when they won the championship for the backers for them compared to what it was. So he's not going to have to facilitate a pass rush like Mac Wilson did during a large portion of last year with their exotic blitz packages. But my question to you is, because he's the closest rookie to have to save a position group out of any of the ones that the Cardinals did, it's like he could be ready. But do you think this dude could be a Pro Bowler in the NFL, or is this going to be a guy who's going to be a solid starter for a decade? Like, if you had to pick now what the ceiling would be and what the floor would be, like, which of those two would you choose? I know it's completely unfair to ask.
It is, but I don't care. I'll answer the question. I'll entertain it. I think the ceiling, couple Pro Bowls. And I don't like saying that, but Cody Simon to me has been the best linebacker since Ryan Day got there.
Oh, wow.
And you think about Tommy Eichenberg, who just got drafted by the Raiders, I believe, the year before, who was a great linebacker. Don't get me wrong. Cody Simon was a better blitzer. Cody Simon was a better, I won't say better run stuffer, because that's where Tommy Eichenberg made his name, was just stopping the run. He was an old school Mike linebacker. He played in 85. You're talking about a guy that's an 8, 9, 10-year Pro Bowler, because that's what Tommy Eichenberg excelled at. But Cody Simon, I think, is better in coverage. He has better range, and I think a lot of people will think about going sideline to sideline. I think the transition from playing from the wide hash marks in college to these shorter ones in the NFL is one that he's actually going to be better prepared for, because he did it very well in college. I do think he's going to be a solid, at worst, solid starter, consistent starter, yes. I do think there's a ceiling where you're looking at Cody Simon in, say, 6 or 7 years. He's made a couple Pro Bowls. He's had a big payday. He's probably going to stay with the Cardinals. If the Cardinals are going to want to keep him, he'll probably stay out there. Now, trades happen. Like, you can't predict stuff like that. Like, you could just be traded away tomorrow. But I do think Cody Simon is a kind of linebacker you want leading your team. And he's also a great extension of the coach on the field. You're not having to have a guy call the plays that is not going to know what's going on. I mean, he has the brains. He has the quickness. He has the physical attributes you want. It's a steal they got him in the fourth round. I can't believe he fell that far.
Yeah, it's crazy. If you can get a green dot dude in the fourth round, I mean, that's something that is a dream, especially somebody who can do it. I mean, the knock on Kazir White is that he's not as fast as he once was, and he never had that elite speed. He's never been great in coverage, and he's the guy who he's going to supplant. Obviously, Kazir White now a free agent still alongside Mac Wilson. Before we pivot to Denzel Burke, any sort of weaknesses? Because obviously these guys are, later round picks. They weren't drafted in the top 2 rounds for a reason. It's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. What are his limitations? Just quickly here.
I think speed. I think he doesn't have like the top end linebacker speed. He doesn't have the quick twitch that some of the other linebackers have. He is someone that has to play at Mike. He can't play outside backer either weak or strong. He has to play right there in the middle. So there are some limitations there. I also wonder if NFL teams are questioning his durability, because he did get dinged up a little bit at Ohio State. And I would be concerned about it. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, if I was an NFL team, drafting Josh Simmons in the first round after he hurt had
Right.
a lower leg injury, and at number 32, I would be nervous about that. Seth McLaughlin, I understand why he didn't get drafted. He had a serious injury. So I do think the injury concerns may have pushed people back. Like, yeah, he had multiple injuries throughout his college career. We're going to lay off of him. But I don't think those types of things are going to derail his productivity. Yeah, he's not the fastest. He doesn't have the quickest twitch. He is a really good blitzer. He's getting better in coverage. I think that kind of stuff at the next level, some people are going to say, no, I'm going to stay away from it. But you got to pursue it. Because if you don't pursue it, somebody else will that might be in your division, and then he could be the guy that gets a key sack on 3rd and 8 that forces you to punt when you needed to score because, we passed up on him. They didn't, and he killed us.
When asked what the recipe for getting to the quarterback stems from, he said, when talking to Cardinals reporters after being drafted, quote, being aggressive, fast, and violent. If there are 3 adjectives that Jonathan Gann and Nick Rallis want from players irrespective of draft stock and draft position, those are them. Denzel Burke is going to have a tougher climb to get into the starting lineup with how chock full of talent the Cardinals secondary is now. How long will it take? Is he going to be a good rotational piece? We'll discuss that next. Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, next. At Jay Stevens 07, Locked On Buckeyes. Do you remember the first time I called it Locked On Ohio State, the whole show, and we had to re-record?
I did.
Remember that?
I do remember that.
Josh
Yeah,
Jackson
that was. I wasn't going to correct you. I don't think I did. I just was like, oh, maybe he's trying to do something new when he heard something before I did. I don't know, but
I'm just a dummy. Trying to sound smart. This is my best character that I act out as someone who actually knows what they're talking about. So Denzel Burke is going to have kind of a tougher road. Okay. He's an Arizona kid. I didn't know this. I read this in an article this morning from Darren Urban, actually from azcardinals.com, said he had worked out with Starling Thomas over the last couple off seasons. I didn't know that he had those ties to Arizona. And now Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Will Johnson, Starling Thomas, there's going to be some competition. And that's not something that Denzel Burke would shy away from with who he went up against in practice over the last couple of years. So Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Emeka Egbuka, and then Jeremiah Smith this year, who is 100 on college football. Do you have 100 college football rating, I think? So he's at practice against some of the best to come out of college over the last handful of years. Is this dude a guy who could potentially be a starter in this league?
Yes, potentially. And the key word is potentially.
Yeah.
He had one of the weirdest falls over his final 3 years at Ohio State that I've seen from anyone. Generally, you get a guy that's injured. An injury causes a slide. He had a sophomore slump that was almost so uncharacteristic because of how well he played his freshman year. You expect him to fall a little bit, but he slumped so hard his sophomore year, bounced back his junior year, but it still wasn't at the same level as you would have expected it to be. Because if you start year one, sophomore year, you slump a little bit, you expected you to be at least at the same level as a freshman, if not better in your junior season. He was better, but it wasn't as good as it needed to be. And then this year, I don't think the Oregon game was the start of some of his issues. It was just where they got exposed. He had just missed assignments. He had some mental errors. And, of course, the Oregon game everybody watched this year is like, man, he's getting torched. Speed is not his strong suit. And I'm glad you used the word potentially because I did agree with it earlier. I'm going to keep agreeing with it as we go on. Yes, he can potentially be a starter, but he has to figure everything out up here in his head. Because once he figures out the mental state and what's causing some of the issues, I think he'll be fine. I don't know if he'll get back to being a solid, not even true shutdown corner, but lock you up consistently to potentially be a lockdown corner. I think he can be down the road. But buddy, you got to fix your head stuff, man. Because if you have all the talent in the world, but you're having issues in your head and you can't overcome the mental hurdles that you're causing yourself, I don't care about how talented you are. You'll never be the best you can be.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And I have a name that I'm going to bring up that I didn't think about until right now that maybe is synonymous with the fall of Denzel. But it's like in sales where it's like you'd rather have a dude who's raw without any real bad habits as opposed to a guy who's above average at his job, but there are some things that nothing's going to stop that person from changing those things. Those are some of their fiber core values. He's a lot more raw, which is good. And listen, like that, Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rallis, great. And unlike Cody Simon, there was no world where he's drafted to save the secondary. Okay, which is obvious. Like I always go back to Marco Wilson from 3 years ago now, where Steve Keim moved up, drafted him in the 4th round out of Florida. He's like, "All right, CB2, go get him, kid." And it's like, this dude's not ready. Like, what are you talking about? And Byron Murphy it wasn't great. So this is not that. So he's going to be 5th or 6th on the depth chart. Hopefully he makes the roster, makes the 53, maybe starts on the practice squad. Is this a Shawn Wade fall? Because I remember Shawn Wade was like, is that dude a blue chipper? Like, is that dude going to go in the first 2 rounds? And then he actually went in the 4th round of the pick. I think he went to Baltimore, where the Cardinals traded up for Marco Wilson. The pick that they got back ended up being Shawn Wade. And I'm like, if Shawn Wade pops, because I know he had the pick 6 or almost pick 6 in a big game. I don't know. I'm not locked on Buckeyes, but it was long. It was against Trevor Lawrence. But was that a fall that is kind of like what Denzel Burke was like, or am I speaking completely out of my shoes here?
No, it's not. Because Shawn Wade changed positions his last year at Ohio State.
Right.
Denzel Burke. Yeah, Denzel. I almost said Denzel Ward. Denzel Burke was always an outside corner, no matter what. Day one at Ohio State, he was fortunate to start his first game. Sevyn Banks went down with an injury in the preseason, and then Denzel Burke. I'll get these names correct one day. Denzel Burke ended up starting his first game. Where Shawn Wade, if Shawn Wade came out after the 2019 season, he probably would have been a day 2 pick as a nickel corner. He came back to Ohio State, decided to bump out to the outside to raise his draft stock. Ultimately, he lowered his draft stock because that wasn't where he was strongest. He was strongest closer to the line of scrimmage, more inside the box. Not in the box, but just outside of it. He's more better in the mix, better in the mud of what's going on the field. That's not where Denzel Burke excels. He is not that kind of guy that, hey, put me in there on the guy in the slot, and I'm going to come in there and put my nose right there and stuff the run for a 2-yard loss right where the tight end was, lined up at the end of the line of scrimmage. That's not him. He can be a decent tackler. Shawn Wade excelled at the inside nickel corner spot, decided to go outside. It hurt him. Denzel Burke is literally just a fall of a guy that has some mental issues on the field. I think it's a lack of confidence, honestly. I don't even really think it's like outside influences where people say things, he reads things, and it's causing to have mental hurdles formed in his brain. I think it's just a lack of confidence. Because if you start great at one point, your second year there, you fall. Your third year, you're not getting back to where you think you should be. That's going to mess up anybody. Not just him. It's going to mess up me. It's going to mess up you. Denzel Burke is more just a guy that fell because he wasn't able to play as consistent as he used to.
Got it. All right. Well, that's fair. I mean, I think the mental hurdles from the NFL, from college to the NFL, I think are a lot more massageable and tweakable, depending on severity. Obviously, mental health is a serious thing. As opposed to physical limitations that would keep you from being drafted at a high spot, because you can't really fix those. I wasn't going to do this, but I told you, I don't know. Paris Johnson Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr. Paris Johnson has been, in my opinion, exactly what you want to trade back from 3 to 12 and up to 6, right tackle, then left tackle should be through 2 seasons. I think he's done a great job. He doesn't need to be Trent Williams to be worth the draft pick. And I think he's been great. I think Marv having him there was great for the transition. And I think he's just a dude that's going to be a left tackle for the next 15 years or whatever it is. Have you seen the growth that you expected from him? Like, is there anything is this just a dictionary definition of what you thought the first 2 years would be from him? I know you haven't been watching as closely, but from what you've seen.
Yes, because this is what he did at Ohio State. Freshman year played, I believe, mainly right guard, even in a backup role, mainly played right guard. His, I believe, sophomore year, he went to right tackle. My years may be off. I know he went from right guard to eventually being left tackle at Ohio State. And one of my biggest concerns was, bro, you're not just changing size of the line from right to left, you're changing positions. So your footwork is going to be different from right guard to left guard. Your footwork and placement and everything that goes on with it, even in your brain, is different from right guard to left tackle. But he made a comment in a preseason press conference talking about how that transition was not going to be difficult for him. He's just basically made for this. Now, he wasn't filled with the big old ego where he's saying, like, man, I'm made for this, man. Y'all can't tell me nothing. No, he was very confident. He was very calm in the way he spoke. And it just exuded a guy that gets it. He understands what he's saying when he says it, and he knows that he's able to transition from right side to left side, right guard to left guard, right guard to left tackle. Doesn't matter. He could do it. So, yeah, I kind of expected him when he got to the NFL to be going from one side of the line to the other, just trying to fill out the needs of the team, or wherever the coaches need him, that's where he'll be, and he'll excel at any spot.
And then Marv, before I get you out of here, what I said when they drafted Marv, I was vehemently against it. I thought they should have traded back for the first 80% of the draft cycle last year and the offseason. I thought they could have, drafted Joe Alt, drafted back, got 3 first-round picks, whatever it was. And the last 20%, I'm like, all right, listen, who cares? Like, it's going to be awesome. Marv is going to be good. Him and Kyler were like, it's going to be good. Like the fan kind of football kind of just broke through. Now, he had 62 catches for just under 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. And I said this to you when he got drafted, I'm like, people are going to be upset. He's the third option on this offense. He is not drafted to save the offense like Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors were. It's James Conner and it's Trey McBride, and then it's Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s job to rip that through the gold hands of Trey McBride to be the first option in the pass game. That hasn't happened yet. And I'm not freaking out. I thought he was fine. He and Kyler Murray have a lot of work to do. Marv needs to get in the weight room and gain 20 pounds. And his 50-50 balls need to be exponentially better than they were last year, even though that's not his strong suit. Do you have any issue with what he did last year? Or is that kind of like for me, it was if he wins versus the sidelines every time, catches the ball 2 feet down like we talked about, he did it every time. His first touchdown catch in the back of the end zone, nobody could have caught that damn ball. 2 feet down, in, touchdown, and then he had another 70-yarder in the same quarter. I'm sorry, I'm diatribing here. When it comes to Marv, is this the natural progression? Like, did you expect in this offense that that's what the output that you'd see and not really listen to the noise of the other dudes putting up bigger numbers in a losing situation?
I kind of expected Marv to keep his head down and work because that's what his dad did. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the apple does fall far from the tree. This one didn't. Now, he's not like exactly like his dad. Like his dad was not out here rocking Louis Vuitton bags and wearing Louis Vuitton cleats. He wasn't doing stuff like that. But Marvin Harrison Sr. was the kind of player that you knew no matter what was on the other side, he was going to be prepared. He was going to work over and over and over and work in a way that it was one where you're not really knowing what he's doing. You see the production on Sunday. Marv with his toe taps, I don't know a guy in college that I've seen do that as consistently as he did at Ohio State. It was just insane. The fact that his body control and he's able to I saw him one time. He caught a ball near the sideline. He literally kept the outside foot was about to go out of bounds. He kept it up, brought the left foot inbounds while the right foot was supposed to hit out of bounds first. I don't know how he did it. Left foot hits inbounds, and then he goes out of bounds. I'm like, how do you do this? So that's the stuff that I expected. I expect anybody that goes to the NFL to struggle. Anybody. Paris Johnson, Cody Simon, Denzel Burke. It doesn't matter. I expect you to struggle because that league is hard. There's only one NFL. It happens to be in America, and it's the hardest league in the world. You're supposed to struggle. You're supposed to have those growing pains. You're supposed to be the kind of player that experiences those things and then learns from them and grows from them. And I think Marv is going to have growth this upcoming season because of what he did, but also something I don't know if either one of us has mentioned. We've talked about 5 Ohio State players plus Justin Fry. Now, Baron Browning didn't really play that much with the other guys, but he is still a Buckeye, which means a whole lot to that kind of brotherhood. For Marv, for Paris, for Cody, for Denzel, then you even mentioned Baron Browning and Justin Fry. they're going to help each other. Coach is going to help the players. The players want to help each other. Hey, you messed us up here. Why did you get it wrong? Oh, this is why. And they're going to help each other fix everything. And it's also going to help you be more comfortable on the field because of the trust you have in the guy next to you, because you know what he's made of. You know the jersey he wore in college. You know his coaches. You know his family. That kind of stuff, I think, is going to help not only Marv be better in the upcoming year, but it's going to help Denzel Burke. Because the one guy that I have the most questions about is Denzel Burke. And when you have a lack of confidence and some mental hurdles that you have to try to get over, one of the easiest ways to get over those types of things is to look and see your family around you. Your guard's going to come down. You're going to be a whole lot more comfortable, and the chips are going to fall exactly where you want them to fall.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well put. It's a great way to end it. Jay, tell people where they can find you, man.
Alex, this has been fun. You guys can follow me on YouTube or follow Locked on Buckeyes on YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. We're there talking Buckeyes every Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, at least that much. And there's no off season in the NFL. There's no off season in college football. We're doing this thing every day, all year long, because football fans don't want an off season, and we're here to provide that fix for you.
Hell yeah. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Get to know your draft pick. Week continues tomorrow. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.